Hello and welcome friends. Up till now in the rural marketing mix we have discussed the marketing of FMCG products and consumer durables, and then we talked about the marketing of agri inputs. Now we are going to discuss the marketing of agri commodities. You can have a look at the different types of commodities. We have got cereals, and then we have got vegetables and fruits, and then we have got pulses and oilseeds. So these are the different types of agri commodities. Why are we discussing them? Why are we discussing marketing of agri commodities separately? See, up till now we were discussing rural marketing from the perspective of marketer. Up till now we were trying to sell consumer durables. Up till now we were trying to sell FMCG products to the rural customers. Up till now we were discussing how to sell agriculture inputs and farm machinery and equipments to the farmers. Now this time, in this particular session, we are going to discuss how the rural communities sell their products in the markets. So we are not going to discuss how, as a marketer, we are going to sell our products to the rural customer. That we've already done, but we are going to discuss how the rural communities sell their products in the market. They may have their produce which they want to sell in the market. They might be having cattle, they might be rearing cattle, they might want to sell dairy products, they might be having poultry, so they would want to sell egg and chicken. So how do they go about selling their products? So this is a slightly different discussion, and you should be conscious of the difference between what we are going to discuss today and what we have discussed already in the last few sessions. So what are the features of agri commodities? Number one, small and scattered production. If you talk about any example, let's talk about wheat. So every single farmer is going to produce in a very small amount. One single farmer cannot produce tons and tons of wheat. He is going to produce maybe a few quintals, that is all. So the production is small and scattered, which means there are so many people who are growing the same crop, and all of them are growing in small volumes. Now what is the implication of this? Now please understand, for an intermediary who is buying from the farmer, he has got so many options. The intermediary has got so many options. If one particular farmer is not offering him the price that he wants, then he can always switch to some other farmer. So this means that the farmer who is trying to sell his agri commodities, that particular farmer does not have much bargaining power, because the customer to whom he is trying to sell his product, the intermediary, the bicholia, he may switch to some other farmer if he is not happy with the price that this particular farmer is offering to him. So in that sense, the farmers would have a low bargaining power. Then as far as the production is concerned, agri commodities are seasonal in nature. Almost all the commodities, they are grown and sown and harvested in a particular season, which means during the season, when the crop is there in the market, it has been just harvested, there would be a lot of supply in the market, which will reduce the prices. On the other hand, in the off season, when the crop is generally not grown, it is generally not harvested, in that particular season of the year, the supply would drop down in the market, and since the demand would remain constant throughout the year, what will happen is that there would be an increase in prices. So a farmer would not be able to get good returns for his hard work during the season, while on the other hand, if he has got good storage facilities, he has a good storage infrastructure available with him, he can store his products till the off season arrives, and if he then sells his product in the market in the off season, he is going to be able to sell more. He is going to be able to earn more, because the prices would have risen in the off season. Is this understood? So this is one thing, and the implication is that good storage infrastructure should be provided to farmers. Then only they would be able to prosper from their hard work, prosper by selling the produce, prosper by selling the crop that they have produced. Is this fine? Then generally the agri commodities are bulky, which means there is a lot of transportation cost involved in moving the agri commodities from the farm where they are produced to the consumption center, which are generally in the urban markets. So it takes a lot of a good quality transportation infrastructure, and transportation itself is a significant cost during the whole process. So good transportation network is required to move these kind of bulky agri commodities. Then please also understand, agri commodities are also perishable in nature. The perishability in nature means after some time they would rot. You cannot store them forever, or you cannot even store them for a very long period of time. Think of fruits. Can you store them outside the refrigerator for 2 months? You cannot, right? Which means basically these products have a very small, very low shelf life, very small shelf life. Fine. Which means that the farmer, if he has produced, let's say, fruits and vegetables, he knows that the shelf life of these fruits and vegetables is very, very small, maybe 2 to 3 days. He is bound to sell these products within 2 to 3 days. Even if he is not getting good returns, if he is not able to command good price for his produce. Why? Because if he does not do that, his produce may rot, and then it would be of no value to him or for the customer, and it would be a waste of money for him, and he would have to incur losses. So what he will do is, just to ensure that this does not happen, he will be compelled to buy, he will be compelled to sell, even if the customer is offering him a low price. And this is what is distress selling. Again, many of the farmers are relatively poor, so what they do is they earn the money in the current cropping cycle, and they use the same money to invest in the next cropping cycle. So naturally, again, this is again a big problem for the farmers, because if they are not able to sell their produce, they would not be having the money to invest in the next cropping cycle and to buy agri inputs or to buy other kinds of machineries or pesticides and fertilizers which are required. So they are forced to distress sell their products so that they may have enough money to invest in the next cropping cycle. Okay, again, this means that if somehow we are able to provide storage infrastructure to our farmers, right, specifically in the case of perishable commodities, then he can delay his sales in the market. He does not need to worry about selling his product within 2 to 3 days of harvesting it. He can wait for a few more days or weeks or months to sell his product in the market. He would not have to distress sell. Is this okay? So a good storage network, specifically a good cold storage network, would mean that the farmer can delay his sales in the market, and that he does not have to sell his produce at a very low cost in the market soon after harvesting it. Again, product variability is a big issue. Product variability means that all the products that are grown, or all the commodities that are grown, that are produced in the fields, they may not be of exactly the same quality, the same size, or the same color. So there is a lot of variability. Let's talk about apples. You must have seen apples in the market. Even if they belong to a particular species, even if they are coming from a particular region, let's say they are coming from Shimla, even then not all the apples would be of the same shape, size, weight, color. So there is a lot of variability. In such case, then how do you decide the price of a particular apple? So what is the implication? The implication is that there should be some standards set, and standards are set in most of the agri commodities. For example, in apples you can set the standard. I'm just giving a crude example. The standards can be set according to the moisture content in the apple, or according to the acidity level in the apple, or the pH factor, which determines the level of acidity or the alkalinity. So depending on the pH factor, we can set up different standards. The best quality should have this kind of pH, the second best quality should have this kind of pH, and the third best quality should have this kind of pH. Or I'm just giving an example, it could be also the color of the outer layer. So if it is dark red, this is one standard, could be dark red, then this is considered to be a particular kind of a grade. So we have got different standards, so we can set up different standards. One is dark red, the other one is light red, the third one is light green, the fourth one is dark green. And then we have said that the dark red is of the best quality, so it is going to command the highest price in the market, which means basically we have set standards. And then what we'll do the grading. What happens in the grading? Now we'll pick up apples and then see what is the color of the skin, and if it is dark green, we have said that it would be grade 4. If it is dark red, it is grade 1. So grade 1 is going to command the highest prices in the market. So this is what standardization means. You basically set up standards and then grade every single product on these standards and understand which particular product belongs to which particular grade, and accordingly you'll understand what kind of quality does it entail and how much price can it command in the market. So this is how you go about selling the agri-commodities in the market. Again, one more issue with agri-commodities is that the farmers which are engaged in production of agri-commodities, they generally have a production orientation. They are more concerned with the production, they are more knowledgeable about the production, but they have very less information about selling, about marketing their products in the market to the customers. So this is one major issue, because they are not able to market their products, they are not able to create a brand name for themselves, they are not able to generate repeat sales, and naturally they are not able to command a high price in the market, so their income levels always remain low. In fact, very recently government has made this announcement that they would provide facilities for the farming community to be able to brand their products. Once they start branding their products, the customer would be able to identify the brand with a particular level of quality, and then he would seek that particular brand, and this would bring greater earnings, higher earnings for the farmers. Now let us talk about marketable surplus and marketed quantity, which are basically two important issues while a farmer or a farming family or a farming community decides how much to sell and how much they basically have got to sell, and how much of that amount they are going to sell. So let us understand the difference between the two. Marketable surplus is, have a look, quantity available for sale. This is the quantity that is available for sale. This is marketable surplus. It can be marketed, that is why it is marketable surplus. And surplus, what do we mean? What do we mean by surplus? Surplus is when he has reserved a portion for his own consumption or his family's consumption. Whatever is left, that is the marketable surplus. And it depends on the size of the farm. So if the size of the farm is big, naturally the volume of production, the volume of the crop that you have produced would be bigger, which means even if you provide for the family, even if you have reserved some of the portion for the family, even then you would be left with a lot of amount which would be available for sale. Again, if you are using good techniques, you would be able to get a good yield, which means even after reserving for the family consumption, you would have a lot of crop left for sales in the market. Again, consumption habits are also very, very important. Now just think of a farmer in UP and think of a farmer in Tamil Nadu, and suppose let's say that both of them are growing paddy. Now you understand, in UP, in north, paddy or rice is not the staple food. We generally have wheat, while in south the staple food is paddy or rice. Now if the farmers in UP and Tamil Nadu, both the farmers in our example, they have produced the same amount of paddy, same amount of rice in their fields, the marketable surplus would be more for the North Indian farmer. Why? Because he would keep aside a smaller portion of his produce, of the paddy that he has produced in his fields. He would keep aside a smaller portion of that particular paddy for the consumption by his family. Why? Because the family generally has wheat and products made of wheat, and they only have rice, let's say, just once in the afternoon. Is this fine? On the other hand, the farmer in the South India will have to reserve more of that particular produce for his family's consumption, because the staple diet is rice. So he will keep aside a bigger portion for his family's consumption, and that is why he would be left with a smaller marketable surplus. So this is how consumption habits determine the marketable surplus. Again, if the size of family is large, you have more numbers in your family, naturally the amount that you'll have to keep aside for consumption would be high and the marketable surplus would be low. Again, if you have good amount of storage capacity, what will you do? You will keep aside a bigger portion of your produce to be consumed in future also. Why? Because you have got storage capacity, which means you can store your food for longer period of time. So you'll keep aside a bigger portion of that for the family's consumption, and naturally the marketable surplus will be low. This is fine. Now let us talk about the marketed quantity. What happens? What is basically marketed quantity? Marketable surplus was what was available for sale. Marketed quantity is quantity which is actually sold in the market. So what farmer actually sells in the market is the marketed quantity. What is available for sale was the marketable surplus, but he sells how much? Only the marketed quantity. So quantity actually sold in the market is marketed quantity. Now it depends on immediate cash requirements. Many a times, if the farmer requires a lot of cash because there is some function in the family, or let's say some kind of some ceremony has to take place, so he'll have to keep aside some money. So what he's going to do, he'll keep aside that money. He'll have to keep aside some money for it, and for that to happen, he will have to sell all his produce. Sell as much as his produce as possible, which means his marketed quantity would be higher. Why? Because he wants cash so that he can spend on the function that is going to take place in his family. Again, if the current prices are higher, the farmer would be induced to sell more. The farmer would be induced to sell more in the market. So what he'll do, he will dip into the reserves for his family, and he'll sell from that particular reserve also. So he'll keep lesser amount for his family's consumption. He'll dip into the amount that has been kept aside for family's consumption. He'll take out some amount of that, and he'll sell that also, so that he can earn as much as possible because of the currently high prices in the market. So if the prices are higher, the marketed quantity may be more than the marketable surplus. And again, if the farmer requires cash, immediate cash he requires, then he may again want to dip into the amount stored for family's consumption, and then he would want to sell it in the market, which means the marketed quantity will be higher. And so we will have these three relationships. Marketed quantity will be less than marketable surplus. So not all of the marketable surplus is actually sold in the market. This is what we mean by MQ less than MS. This is happening because the farmer has decided to retain some of the product for his own family's consumption. He stored some of the product, so he is not selling whatever surplus he had. He is only selling a portion of that. So the marketed quantity is less than MS. In many cases, MQ is equal to MS. These are generally perishable commodities. Perishable commodities because they would soon rot, they would soon spoil. So what happens is the farmer generally sell all that is available for sale, which means the marketed quantity or the quantity which will actually be sold in the market would be same as whatever is left to be sold or the marketable surplus. So whatever extra he has, he will sell all of that. For example, let's talk about a family. I'm just giving an example. Suppose they've got a kettle, and they've got some kettle, and then they are using them to produce milk, and let's say they're able to produce 5 liters of milk every day, and they require only 2 kilograms. They do not have a refrigerator, they do not have cold storage facilities. What will they do? They'll keep aside 2 kilograms for their own consumption. And don't you think they will want to sell all of the remaining 3 kilograms in the market? So marketed quantity will be equal to marketable surplus. And the third situation can be when marketed quantity is greater than marketed surplus. What does this basically mean? That the farmer is not just selling whatever surplus is available with him, he is selling more than that. So it could be because he requires immediate cash. So what he does, he dips into the reserves for his family, and then he sells it into the market so that he can generate some cash. This often happens with relatively poor farmers also, because they've got to have cash to invest in the next cropping cycle. So they will dip into the reserves for their family, and they will take away some portion of the reserves for their family and then sell that also in the market, so that the marketed quantity becomes higher than the marketable surplus. Then again, if the prices are reigning high in the market, then again the farmer would want to do what? He would want to earn more by selling more of his produce in the market, so he'll dip into the reserves for his family and sell that in the market. So this is how marketable surplus and marketed quantity, you may see different relationships between the two in different contexts, and you should be able to understand this. With this, I'm closing this particular session, and in just one more session I'll hopefully be wrapping up this particular unit.